Bonjour à tous, aujourd'hui nous sommes arrivés à Berlin, nous sommes en plein cœur de Berlin, dans le parc naturel de Südgelände. Nous allons avoir l'honneur de faire une balade en forêt avec le créateur du parc. Comme vous le savez, je fais le tour du monde en stop. Je suis parti le 12 juin à la rencontre d'acteurs et d'experts inspirants pour sensibiliser et vulgariser les sujets de biodiversité à travers les arbres. Et aujourd'hui, c'est un petit peu un point étape puisque c'est la première vidéo qui n'est pas tournée dans un pays francophone. Donc ça pose la question de la langue. Comme vous allez le voir dans la vidéo, c'est pas vraiment mon fort. Et la question c'est surtout, qu'est-ce que vous voulez regarder? Aujourd'hui, je vous propose donc une interview en anglais sous-titrée. Est-ce que ce modèle vous convient? Est-ce que vous préférez que je fasse appel à des traducteurs sur place pour essayer autre chose? Qu'est-ce que vous préférez regarder? Dites-moi tout en commentaire. Et surtout, si vous croyez en notre projet, aidez-nous, donnez-nous de la force, partagez ces vidéos, partagez ces connaissances, partagez votre sensibilité à la biodiversité. Je vous laisse avec la balade en forêt avec Andreas Langer. Andreas Langer, hello.
Hello, Ganesh. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks to be here.
Thanks to be here too. Yeah, to visit.
Can you introduce yourself in a few words?
Oh, okay. Yeah, my name is Andreas Langer. Now I am retired, but I was self-supplied for 30 years. I am a landscape planner, landscape architect, and focusing mostly on urban ecology, urban vegetation. We also worked a lot for maybe around Berlin for national parks, mostly projects for nature protection and nature development concepts.
And this place for you, it's a very special place?
Yeah, it was one of our, maybe I think it's the most famous project of my studio. The studio was named Planland, Planungsgruppe Landschaftsentwicklung. We were working here on this project for about 10 years, I think. We started in 1992 with some surveys of the flora and the vegetation, and we did an overall mapping of the vegetation. And later, together with Ingo Komarek, we did the concept for the site here. Yeah. So the last thing we did was a management plan for developing the site on the long run, to develop vegetation areas.
What was the story of this place? It's a very historical place with a special ecological story too.
It was, it was a shunting yard, and as long as it was used as a shunting yard, it was blank of vegetation. You know how stations or shunting yards look like, a lot of gravel and drains and work, but no vegetation. It was used till the 50s of the last century, and the background of the development of the vegetation is that what you see today is the result of the political situation of Berlin after the Second World War. So because the site was under the administration of the eastern part of Berlin. So, Berlin was a divided city, and the eastern administration, they administrated all the shunting yards. And so the western administration had no possibility to develop the site or to do things here, or there was no success, also no access to this site for everybody. So it was fenced, it was boarded, and from time to time, there were some holes in the fence I slipped in, so I know it for a long time, this site. Also, when I started to study here in Berlin, it was in the end of the 70s. Sometimes came to have a look, and that's about nearly 50 years ago. It looked very different because, not so many trees were here. It was more open fields and grassland, and so there was a big change during the years, concerning the vegetation. So
during 40 years, this place was not touched. Nobody entered in.
Yes, it was in the 70s or at the end of the 70s. The Western administration had the idea to build up again a shunting yard here, and so that was maybe the starting point for people to think about alternative concepts. It was quite clear that you have a lot of diversity here on the side, and people wanted to protect it. So the idea of this nature park was, popped up in the 70s already. But the falling down of the wall, that it was possible to develop the site, because before nobody had access here. So after the unification, it was part of the common city, and so the administration could start to think about a concept or to open the site.
A lot of biodiversity, and we are on the center of Berlin in a urban, very urban environment.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, that was the reason people. Okay, nobody knew before how huge the diversity could be on these kind of sites.
So how this special vegetation arrive here?
You have a mixture of indigenous plants and also neophytes. So, for example, black locust is from North America, but the birch tree is from here. So it's
the birch.
This one, it's a mixture. Formally, neophytes are not welcome in nature protection sites, but here they are protected. Maybe you have to make a kind of change in your thinking what means urban nature.
Yes, and if we stay in the species, I read that here we have species from a very far place, like. I see a purple beech too, and I read too there is a spider from south of France.
Yeah, which is always told that they came with the wagons, with the trains.
With the train.
And maybe when things were unloaded, so maybe things fell out, and so some species could survive here. 95
species of bee.
Yeah.
And we discovered six types of bee here. Exact or?
Yeah, more than, I don't know the exact number, but there's a lot of different kinds of bees you have here. Yeah. So in the open places, we had in the first survey in the 17th, we had maybe 2/3 open spaces and 1/3 woody spaces. And 20 years later, it was the other way around. So 2/3 was wooded, and only 1/3 was left as open space. So that was one of the questions when we started to develop the site. We let succession go on, like it was the last 40 or 50 years. We decided to open sites again because of the diversities. Or as I said, the bees are in the open spaces, and more or less maybe 20 years later, so the whole site would have been wooded maybe. So that means a loss of diversity, and so the decision was made to develop a certain structure here. Yeah, so to have different sites, you have woody spaces, and you have open spaces. Yeah, to keep the diversity. Yeah, and okay, that means you have to have a management plan too, because you have to keep the open spaces in the long run. Yeah, so it's the other concept would have been okay, let it flow and let it develop, but at the end of the day, you would go through a forest more or less. Yeah, and I think also for the visitors, it's more interesting to have to walk through different kind of places, so open and sunny and shadowy places. So
it was easy to defend that we need a different type of ecosystem.
Yeah, I think that was.
We have to not live totally free as some part of the.
So okay, these parts here they are left totally free. So the woody sides, there's no management, only maybe if some branches may fall down, they put it away, but in the woody spaces, nobody is doing things or is managing it. So, but okay, the open spaces you have to manage. You saw the sheep, or we will see. I don't know. Are they still here, the sheep, or?
They're still here. Yeah.
In the beginning, they started with mowing, but later, so it was part of the discussion to think about animals. They did it, and it works obviously very well. So,
And
so they are here every year, and they eat the grass. And maybe the effect is that it's not. If you mow, you cut everything, in one height, and the sheep do it in a different way. In a different way, and it doesn't look. At the end, maybe it looks a bit wilder than if you mow the whole thing. Yeah.
And the forest area, what future for the forest? Because if we don't touch the forest, what will be arrive with the forest in this part, for example?
You have these. The robinias, these are all pioneer plants, and birch trees too. And we also have poplar, but they are still here. So even after 50 years, 60 years, the pioneer vegetation is still here. This one is oak.
An oak, so the final climax of vegetation.
Could be, but could be. That depends. Maybe we'll see some places where the pioneer vegetation broke down, and then it depends what or which species is faster growing up and can take over. So sometimes the robinia comes again and succeed, and so the next generation goes up.
So it's a very long process. So
I think it's an open process. Nobody knows really what will pop up or what will be the climax of this kind of vegetation. Here the pioneer vegetation breaks down, obviously, so they are dying, and then the question is what comes up here. What comes up here is maple tree. These could be the next generation.
Okay.
But you see, robinia black locust is also popping up again, so it depends a bit.
Very interesting.
I think one question was keeping the biodiversity, so that was one of the aims.
The first one, okay.
And the other thing was to open the park for the public. So before we started to think about the concept, there were some maybe former ideas to fence the whole side and not to let people in, or only let them in by guided tours or whatever. So because they thought maybe the diversity would decrease when people are coming in, and so we had to think about possibilities to open the site, because I think you can't. It's a very special area, and you can't fence it, and you can't keep people out in midst of Berlin. So I think nobody would accept it at the end of the day. So because it's a wonderful place, and you try to keep people out. So that's not a way to bring people in touch with urban vegetation. So you have to involve them, and you have to make it possible that they could visit. So we had to find a way to open it without endangering the flora and the rich flora and vegetation. And the walkway was so maybe the solution to let people in, so you can go through, but you don't touch vegetation. So first we were thinking about a walkway a bit higher and with a railing, and because we also thought maybe people would step down and go across, but they don't do. So it's a bit, I don't know why it's like this, but people are accepting,
respectful, okay,
to stay on the path and not to go down into the vegetation. I think it's in other parks people do whatever they want. They sit in the lawn, but here it's accepted. Maybe it's a special character of the site, or that they realize that something is different than in other parks, and it's a special atmosphere, it's a special vegetation. It's more to, maybe most of the people come here maybe a bit to contemplate. Maybe it's not a park for playing football or so.
In the biodiversity crisis, do you see this place as hope, as an hope? It seems to be possible that human and nature together in a city.
Yeah, I think it is possible. Yeah. So if you are aware that maybe urban nature is a bit different. The urban vegetation has the same functional. It's making shadow, it's keeping water and all these things.
And does it give peaceful to people too?
Yeah, and I think maybe that's also a difference also to other parks, this park compared to other parks, because you have, it's more or less grounded in the city because, yeah, it's a park with, yeah, urban vegetation. I sometimes say pure or urban vegetation. And normally you have, the park is something, you plant ornamental trees or whatever, so it's quite different. And here it's really what's popped up coming out of the city, and and I think it has quality, it has diversity, and so it's, and if you go to the countryside, I think, what do you see? Fields, so no diversity anymore. So sometimes I think diversity could be in cities higher than on the countryside, or is sometimes higher than in the countryside, meanwhile.
So you're saying that there is a place for nature in cities, because now we see that population grows and grows, and most of time in city. But you think we can keep nature in city? Do you think that there is a risk that if we choose this way, city will be growth too, and more growth, and eat the countryside? Or for you, it's not a subject?
It's a problem. It could be or is.
If we have no concentration.
You have the city on one side. That's also a process you have now in Berlin. So gaps you still had are all filled with houses, so they try to concentrate houses in the cities, and I think that makes sense, because otherwise you have this urban sprawl and nobody wants it. So you have to, but nevertheless I think you can find possibilities to integrate nature into these concepts, maybe roof gardens or whatever. So there are a lot of possibilities, or to keep, maybe what's questions now, the problem with climate and all the things, the heating of the city, and maybe that's in Berlin also a problem, and we have to have trees. And maybe what's positive here, you have a lot of trees in the streets, more than in other cities. So it's quite a green city.
So we arrive in the place with dry
lawn, open space, if you like. So
the open space. So what is the particularity here? A lot of light.
You have more light, and you have extreme conditions partly. So dry and hot. So we have a special flora, vegetation, and also, as I said, most of the bees are living in these open spaces. You can find here, a lot of different insects. Shunting yard, so the gravel, and it's a lot of, it's dry, it's gravel, the rainfall goes through very quickly, so you don't have a lot of moisture.
The diversity of bees in a city, it's a big subject, because, for example, in Paris, we put many bees on the top of the building. Before we have 1,000 in France, 1,000 species of bees. And in Paris, it was one of the places with the better conservation, because no agriculture in Paris, and so no pollution.
Yeah.
And now with the honeybees, it's just one species, so the diversity, we lose the diversity year after year.
Yeah.
In Berlin, I don't know if you have the same subject. Or...
Yeah, you also have the situation that you have a lot of honeybees on the rooftops here, and I think it's a kind of competition. Yeah.
Competition, yes, because in city there is not very much resources for eating, so.
Yeah. But okay, sometimes I think the resources are in the city. Meanwhile, are better than in the countryside, because if you manage maybe parks and open spaces, maybe extensively, partly, so you have a lot of plants or on the balconies of the inhabitants, whatever. So I think sometimes you find here more flowers than if you go to the countryside, because there's only corn. As I said, it's a competition between honeybees and the wild bees. And if there are too many or too many honeybees, then the others can't survive. Yeah, that's true. The point that people in the city can get in touch with nature, with the urban nature, or with nature, yeah. So it doesn't matter if it's nature, if it's urban, or if it's countryside. It's necessary to see that there's something else. But there are also a lot of other creatures in the city, yeah. And if you think about birds, I think we have a lot of birds in Berlin. So some ecologists say if people from abroad come to Germany and they want to see a lot of local indigenous birds in a short time, they would go to Berlin, because we have a lot of different kind of birds.
Why so many birds in Berlin?
Yeah, I think it's because of different structures you have. I think if you compare a city, the different structures of a city to a countryside, maybe if you think about maybe a square kilometer city, you have houses, you have parks, you have the backyards, you have, balconies, gardens, and in the countryside you have only corn, nothing else. So it's less. And so the diversity of structures and possible habitats are less. Could be an advantage in cities. Different kind of uses and different kind of intensity of use. I think that's the point. So and in the countryside, every farmer maybe is doing the same. They are cutting the grass to the same time, and so everything is gone.
This park is a good example. We see on the entrance many type of. If you take an animal eye, you can find many different type of habitats, and
yes.
So
yeah, I think
this is maybe one of the reasons of the diversity here.
Yes.
You leave the ruins and the train, and many it could be a habitat for bird or for bat.
Yeah, true. So
and they're quiet, so.
And for example, we have a lot of nightingales in Berlin. It's one in Germany. I think we have the biggest population of nightingales here in Berlin. In Berlin, you can see foxes everywhere. I saw my first fox in Berlin, so I think it was here. I was walking here, and then you see the fox. Or sometimes people tell if you are at a traffic light and a fox is beside you.
Okay.
So also waiting. So you have, there are situations you never have in the countryside, I think. So you are quite near. So maybe, fauna and human beings are closer in the cities than in the countryside, because they cohabit more or less. So they are not, nobody is hunting them. So they feel safe here, more or less. Maybe it's an example to to show what's still possible on former, really intensively used sites. Also, what is more intensively used as a shunting yard, so there was only gravel, nothing, no vegetation. And after leaving the place, it's a complete change of
yes, it's
everything.
It's a good news that if we let a little bit the nature, she can take this. She can come back quickly, even in the more artificial places.
What could be more artificial than an industrial site or a shunting yard? Yeah, nature is able to take over again. So, do you have similar places in Paris? Or?
No. Paris, it's the exact opposite because the city is very concentrated, and you don't have many parks, and it's French tradition of garden, French garden, so very clean, very.
It's a different kind of park, yes.
And in Paris, especially, you have this tradition. So I have a last question: will the tree save us?
Yeah, look. Maybe they do. Yeah, but it's a big word. What means to save us? I think in the city, trees are, could save us partly, I would say. So because of the shadow, because of the transparency of the water, they keep and they clean the air, they moisture the air, so it's maybe they don't save us, but they help us to survive, maybe, especially in cities. I think it's important to have trees, and especially now where the temperatures are going up and up and up, and maybe it's getting hotter and hotter, especially in cities, in the core of the city. So if you look to Berlin in the center, you have the temperature is much higher than in the outskirts. So, and you have to find ways to cool down the city, and maybe trees can help to do so. And so have to find ways to integrate trees, not only trees, but maybe on roof gardens. You can also have trees on the roofs to make or to keep cities livable, so that people can live in cities. And as you said, most of the people live already in cities, and it's growing more and more. I think they don't save us, but they help too. They are really helpful.
Andreas Langer, thank you.
Thank you for the visit and for your interest here in Berlin or here on the side. And it's nice that you did a stop over here, especially here.